All right. So now we're going to start Be'ezrat Hashem. After we have discussed the structure of the Haggadah, the purpose of the Haggadah, and the Ruach, essentially, of the Haggadah, now we're going to go with the beginning, Kadesh. Yeah? We addressed the importance of saying Kadesh, Uhaz, Karpas, the latter that we're going up towards. And on the other end, also the Kedusha of each step that we're connecting to, right? The 15 steps. So then now we have Kadesh. Kadesh, very interesting. If you think about it, we don't say Kiddush. We say Kadesh. Why don't we say Kadesh? Why don't we say Kiddush? Why do we have to say Kadesh? First question, right? So in order to answer that, we need to put back in perspective two dimensions. Dimension number one, which is the Kiddush that we do on Shabbat, versus Yom Tov, okay? That we call the first Yom Tov of the year, according to the Seder Azman of the Torah, is Pessach, right? Because the first month, according to the Torah, it's Nisan. So we need to know the following: that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, okay, He created the world, and we addressed it, if you recall in the past, the world with a linear time frame. When we received the Torah, right, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim, there was a specific influence that was given to Am Yisrael on time. And now time became circular. Remember that? We addressed it in Kohelet. So, although on Shabbat we do the Kiddush, because we are connecting to the Shabbat that was brought to the world, not only to Am Yisrael, right? Yet, only Am Yisrael is Mekayem the Shabbat, right? The Gemara says, the Halacha says, if you go Shomer Shabbat, Hayavita, if you go keeps Shabbat, Hayavita Asur. Why? Because although HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shabbat, okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rested on the Shabbat, the nature didn't rest. The trees didn't rest, the animals didn't rest, the birds didn't rest, right? So the Shabbat was a holy version of the creation that was given through Matan Torah to Am Yisrael. Okay? But it is referred to the creation. It's not something that has been given specifically to us. It's a point of reference in creation that was given to us. A point of reference of creation. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shabbat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rested. So there was rest on the seventh day of creation. For creation, although the creation did not rest, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rested on the 7 days, on the seventh day. And when we received the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the privilege to benefit of that rest and that connection that was brought to the world on the seventh day. However, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Chodashim, HaChodesh Hazeh Rosh Chodashim, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us influence on time, the impact on time, this circular dynamic where HaKadosh Baruch Hu repeats his behavior in creation circularly. So on Pesach, he reveals himself based on how he revealed himself on Pesach. Sukkot, Shavuot, Matan Torah, right? So when that interaction between Am Yisrael and time was given, it was not only a new dimension of time, but it's the influence Am Yisrael has on time. So how do we see this practically? Very simple. We know that Rosh Chodesh, who was Mekadesh, who was sanctifying the month? The Kohanim, right? So it was Am Yisrael that defined the Rosh Chodesh, that defined and impacted the time. What was the lesson of Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim? What is the lesson that we learn from that new interaction Am Yisrael has with time? The impact and influence we have in our time. It was that what? That now our action can infuse in time the Kedusha. And that is the Kiddush HaLevana, the Birkat HaChodesh, etc. On Pesach, right? This is the first time where we express and infuse in time our efforts, our Kedusha, right? Because it's the first Chodesh and the first Chag in the Chodesh and in the year. So on Pesach, we proclaim, we announce that we are responsible of the Kedusha we infuse in time, and we choose Kedusha as a point of reference in the beginning of the year. This is the tone, the tone we set in the beginning of our year. Kadesh, this is why it's not Kiddush. Kiddush is something that is been. Kadesh is proactive, sanctified. Kiddush, it's sanctified. Kadesh is you sanctify. So we crystallize and engrave that outlook of what we want. Not only the Leila Seder, but in time. We proclaim responsibility, we own responsibility, and we pave the path of where we want to be and what we want to do with our action for this year. It's like a person that takes upon himself good resolutions in the beginning of the year. This year, you know what? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And everyone, has their own practical decisions and resolutions they make every year. Our first resolution of the year is what? Kadesh. We will work on Kedusha. We will work on Kedusha. Now, the Kedusha itself is not something that just comes and sits and becomes a status quo. It's a work that needs to happen. This is why when we say the Kiddush and when we say Kadesh, it's broken down into 4 cups. Into 4 cups. The 4 cups are why? Because of the 4 leshonot, right? We have 4 terminologies in the Torah that addresses the influence HaKadosh Baruch Hu had on Am Yisrael in Egypt to take us out of Egypt. Okay? And we're going to go through the 4. So the first one, Ve'otzeti. I took you out. Ve'itzalti, and I saved you. Ve'ga'alti, and I redeemed you. Ve'lakachti, and I took you. Those are the 4 terminologies the Torah uses, Hashem uses to express his devotion to Am Yisrael and his dedication to the freedom of Am Yisrael. So if we are plugging those 4 leshonot, those 4 terminologies that Chachamim use as Kadesh, are anchors of Kedusha in the night of the Seder, what it means is that in order to be redeemed, in order to be Mekadesh, there is a process that is reflected from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's influence in Am Yisrael. It's through that reflection of how he took us out that I can build my Kedusha. It's recognizing Ve'otzeti, I took you out, level number 1, first cup. Vehitzalti, and I saved you from the hands of Mitzrayim. But that's the second step. Ve'ga'alti, and I freed you, right? Redeemed you. Ve'lakachti, and I took you. 4 steps. These are the 4 steps of Kedusha, that needs to be processed in a person in order for him to be Mekadesh. So if a person wants to work on his own Kedusha, He has to recognize personally the impact of the Hashem's effort of Vehotzeti, I took you out, and the impact it had on you personally. The influence or the effort of HaKadosh Baruch Hu of Vehitzalti and the impact it has on you. And how do we do that? Chachamim chose that we do that through wine, right? Through the Kiddush. We drink 4 cups of wine throughout the Seder, and the Rambam breaks it down into 4 steps of the Seder. First is the first course, Rishon, which is Kiddush. You have the Kiddush. The second cup is the Magid. The third cup is the Achilat Matzah and Birkat Hamazon, right? When we do the Seudah. And the fourth one is the Hallel. You finish the Hallel, right? So essentially, each portion is supposed to reflect one layer of involvement that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had on the freedom of Am Yisrael, on our own personal freedom. Now, if we discuss specifically why wine, so we know that one represents Sod. Yain is the numerology 70, which is the numerology of Sod. Now, Yain also has something very particular. Is the Chinuch says something phenomenal. He says that when you drink wine, it reveals your state of mind and where you are emotionally in your heart. If you're sad, wine will bring out sadness. If you're happy, wine will bring out happiness. If you're anxious, it will bring out anxiety. The Chinuch says the state that you're in will come out, will blossom, will bring itself to reality almost. It's this secretive emotion that you carry and you hide and you put under the mat, under the carpet, that comes out. However, the wine, in contrary to food, has something also amazing. When you eat, usually the first taste is the nicest taste. You eat something, it's a beautiful, beautiful taste. And as you eat the food, you lose that food, right? Wine is exactly the opposite. Wine, the more you drink it, and the more it has an influence on you, and the more it brings out your true emotions. Says the Chinuch, if you want Kadesh, if you want Kedusha, there is a proactive effort that needs to be done. What does that mean? Number one, you need to set the tone of Kedusha with where you belong in your emotions. What does that mean? That you can have a good interest to go and build your Kedusha, but you know what? To be Kadosh, you need to be Besimcha. So if you're not Besimcha, you're not going to get there. So there's an alignment. Although there's a theory and there's a proclamation, I want a Kedusha in my life this year. I want to be Mekadesh my actions. Great. But you know what? Be careful. Wine brings out who you really are. So you need to proactively choose the happiness that's within you. When you say Kadesh, in order to reveal the Simcha that's with you through the wine, and that Simcha will be the emotional vector that will allow you to accomplish the Kadesh in this evening and in your life. A tremendous lesson. Kadesh. Now, on a technical level, halachic level, few things. We know that the kos that we have to drink from has to be a kos that has in it minimum 86 milliliters. Okay? The Chazon Ish said each kos should be 150 milliliters. Lecha ora, the best is for the first cup of Kiddush to drink 150. Why? Because in the first cup of the Kiddush, there are two mitzvot you accomplish. The mitzvah of Kiddush, and the mitzvah of the first cup, right? You have the mitzvah of the Kadesh, but you also have one of the cups. So it's two mitzvot. So Chachamim say, if you want to do the Kadesh the proper way, drink two portions, if you can. One for Kiddush, one for Kadesh. That's one thing. Number two, also, it's important for the kos to be full. Not 3/4, not 90%, but full. Why? Because kos, if you write it, first of all, the Gemara says kos maleh bracha. When a cup is full, there is beracha in it. Number two, also, because if you take the word kos, kaf, vav, samech, and you write it b'milui. So kaf is kaf and pe, right? 20 and 80 is 100. Vav is 12, vav, vav. Samech is samech, mem, and kaf. So that's 120, right? Samech is 60, mem is 40, and kaf is 20, right? So you have 120 plus 100 is 220, plus vav is 12, 232, right? Let's see. Ha-beracha. 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 How much is ha-beracha? He is 5, right? The first day and the last day. So we make it simple. Ha-beracha. First day and last day is 5 and 5, it's 10, right? Now we have barech inside, right? Bet is 2. Resh is 200. Kaf is 20, right? So it's 222 plus 10, 232. Kos maleh beracha. It's important to have your cup full so that the beracha of Kadesh, this beracha of Simcha, okay, is something that you connect to and you drink and you internalize in your essence. That's also one of the reasons why, also, according al pi hasod, you want to drink a big kos because you want a lot of beracha. You want a lot of beracha of Simcha. You want a lot of beracha. And what is beracha? Beracha means to be able to feel satisfied, full, complete, right? You do something and it goes from the beginning until the end. There's no distortion. There's no stop in the middle. Now, in terms of how much of that cup you need to drink, if you can drink the entire cup, at least for the first cup, yavo alechem beracha. If you can't, rov cup, the majority of the cup. For the rest of the cups, we don't want the cup to be too big, okay? We want them to be just enough or a little bit more for the 86 milliliters, just so that because you want to drink the entire cup, or it's majority. Now, another technical point, when you drink the wine, you cannot stop. So you have to drink it until you finish it. Try not to pause when you drink it. Okay, slowly, you don't have to drink it quickly. Yeah, let's say that. And let's not forget that we have to lean, right? We spoke about leaning, and it's the what.
Wait, Rav, can you explain why you're not supposed to stop?
If you stop, it's a hefsek. It's a disconnect in your own beracha and your connection to your own beracha.
Is that with all the kosot or just the first?
It's better for all the kochot, for all the kosot, for all the kosot. Okay. Now, also a technical question: should it be wine or grape juice? Okay. If it's difficult to drink wine, it's better wine, obviously. But if it's too difficult, grape juice is perfectly fine. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So, another very important point. Another reason why we drink wine is also to express freedom. To express freedom. So the Chachamim tell us that when you drink the wine in Kadesh, The purpose of Kedusha is not to feel stuck. Right? Somebody that is free, you would think, is somebody that doesn't have any boss, right? He can do whatever he wants. He can go where he has no moral responsibility almost, right? He does what he thinks is right, and that's freedom. Our freedom is to choose to be kadosh, to choose Hashem as a king, to choose to have Hashem's influence in us. This is kadesh, and this is the wine that we drink. We drink wine, right? Which is supposed to represent freedom and lightness and almost a loss of control, if you will, if you drink too much. And that lechawah goes against the Torah, because the Torah is against getting drunk, etc. But here it's the opposite. Is we drink the wine and we take the full responsibility of Kadesh, and this is what keeps us grounded and in control. And this is a paradox between the freedom of the Torah, the geula of the Torah, versus freedom of what it means in the street. Freedom of what it means in the street, you do whatever you want and there is no governance on your actions. We choose to free ourselves, yet to stay focused in what we're trying to accomplish, to connect to the Torah, to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the Kedusha. So it's a level of responsibility we take and we don't let go, although we have the wine inside of us and we feel very happy and we feel very satisfied. The lesson Chachamim wants to teach us is that when you think or when you feel free, when you feel loosened up, when you feel that there is nothing controlling you, it's the time to proclaim, to recognize what is your mission and what is your vow to yourself and to your legacy and family, the Kadesh. A very important also lesson that we take home, that freedom comes, but is only healthy if you recognize the responsibility while you're free. To be free without a purpose is terrible. So here we say we are free. We're going to proclaim freedom. But you know what? Not to go and do whatever we want. Not to become completely, wackos. No, we free ourselves by choosing to be under the rules and regulations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The last point, which is very relevant to this year, and we touched on it a little bit in the beginning, we go from Kedushat Shabbat to Kedushat Yom Tov. Right? This year, Erev Pesach is on Shabbat. One Kedusha leads us to the other. And here comes something amazing. A tremendous amount of responsibility and recognition. That we're basically saying the Leila of Seder. Why? Because again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rested, but not the creation. So essentially, the Kedusha of Shabbat was kept for himself, right? Not for nature. We didn't see the monkeys rest. We didn't see the elephants rest. We never. Yet that was given to us, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed us to benefit from that Kedusha. If it wasn't for Shabbat, we would not be able to have right? We would not be able to have the Kedusha of Kadesh, right? On the influence on nature. The only reason why we have it is because of the creation of Maaseh Bereshit. So what we're saying basically this year, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and by creating the world gave us the opportunity to impact individually the world, our times, through our actions. So I recognize that Bishvili Nivra Haolam. The world was created essentially for me and my actions are impacting forever the creation. So it should also a double amount of kedusha that yields, supposed to yield at least, a recognition and importance of the responsibility we bear and we carry. This is the Kadesh and the Kiddush that of Motzei Shabbat. Now, also in terms of Kavanot, there is a difference between Ashkenazim and Sephardim, things that are known to, but when we do the Kiddush, we say Kadesh, we have to have the Kavanah of the first 2 cups for Sephardim. Because the first 2 cups, the second cup we don't make a beracha. Ashkenazim make beracha on each cup. Sephardim we don't. So when we say the first Kiddush, we have to have in mind that we cover the first 2 cups. When we'll say the third Kiddush, when we will drink the third cup, we make a beracha and have in mind the 2 cups, the last 2 cups.
Last all 3?
No,
Or just
we make twice the beracha on the cup.
So the middle
first time for the first 2, the third time for the 3 and 4. And when we make shehiyanu on the Kiddush, we have in mind that we include all the mitzvot, we do shehiyanu for all the mitzvot that we will be doing that night. The achilat matzah, magid, and etc., etc. Any questions on Kadesh? So let's get to Urhatz. Urhatz, we know, it's Netilat Yadayim without Beracha, right? Netilat Yadayim without Beracha. Why do we do Netilat Yadayim without Beracha? Because we are about to eat a vegetable that will be dipped in water. And the halacha is, if you eat vegetables or fruits that have on it water or milk or honey, etc., okay, you have to do netilat yadayim without beracha in order not to bring the impurity on the food. Although all year long we don't really pay attention to it, although we should, but we don't. Leila Seder, since it's the beginning of the year, after I said, you know what, the direction I want to take in this year is Kadesh, the first thing you can do if you want to show that you want to be Kadosh, to be holy, to be connected, to be one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Kadesh, the first thing you could do is to purify yourself, right? Because you need to free yourself. You have to clean yourself from your past. You have to clean yourself from your past behavior, your actions, in order to become one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to be holy. You cannot be holy without being pure. So after I've proclaimed what I want, I do urhatz. I do netilat yadayim without beracha. The Ari HaKadosh says that on Pesach, we're extremely careful and we're very mahmir. We go to the very, very, there's no lenience on Pesach, says the Ari HaKadosh. No lenience. The Sfat Emet explains why. Because it's the beginning of the year. And if it's the beginning of the year, you want to try to be as holy as possible and as good as possible. It's like you start your first day at work, or you enter your house first time, you want it to be perfect, you want it to be beautiful, you don't want any stains, you don't want any, you wear your suit the first time, you want to try to keep it as beautiful as it is, right? So the same thing, for this specific reason, we say we're going to be as pure as we can, we're going to be as mahmir as we can, and we're going to do the netilat yadayim, even though all year long we don't do it. That's urhatz. On a different level, also, it's important because if you want to be kadosh, If you want to become one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to recognize that your actions are not perfect. And you have to recognize there are things that need to change. You need to make decisions. The Netilat Yadayim is a proactive effort that brings awareness to us that it's time to change. Tonight, I'm letting go of something. Tonight, you know what? This has been keeping me between me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I wash my hands from it. I clean myself from it. A very proactive action. So,
Wait, I'm sorry, Rav. I missed. Why do we not say the beracha?
we don't say the beracha simply because that's the halacha. The halacha says that in order to be mahmir, okay, let's take a step back. We do netilat all year long. Okay, if we eat a fruit or a vegetable that has water on it, the water is conductive of tum'ah. Okay, it transmits the tum'ah. The tum'ah, the impurity of your hands, will go on the water, will go on the food. You eat the food, you ate tum'ah. Okay, therefore we do netilat yadayim without beracha, because at that point, the only reason we do beracha of netilat yadayim is in order to eat bread, or the first time of the day, to clean ourselves from the tum'ah of the shena, tumat noga, something we took care of already, right? Now you're about to eat something, you do the netilah, but the netilah is for the purpose of eating the fruit.
Right. It's not for the purpose of eating bread.
All year long, I'm sorry?
Right, because it's not for the purpose of eating bread.
We're not eating bread. This is just because we're going to take the karpas, right, the celery, and we're going to dip it in the water. And because it's in the water, we don't want our hands that are tameh to touch the water of the karpas. That will make the karpas impure, and then we eat it, and then we just ate something that's impure.
So you only have to do when you're eating with your hands, and also, is it the act of dipping it, or is it the fact that it has water on it?
No, the fact that it has water on it.
So
Say,
like
for
salad
example,
dressing or something like that doesn't count because
no, if you eat it, correct. If you eat it, for example, some be'emet say, okay, you know what, we're not makpid anyways, you don't have to do it. Okay, some want to say, some poskim want to say, since nobody is makpid, so it's okay if you don't do it. But because it's part of the Seder, and because of what the Ari HaKadosh says, and most of the poskim, most of the chachamim, say that we have to do it, we're going to eat it, and we're going to make sure to do it and the right way. Now, usually today, we don't eat with hands anymore, right? We eat with forks, and that's why we don't do it. But if, for example, you're going to go and take an olive, and it's wet, because usually olives have sauce, so the right way to do things is to do it. But today we have more things to think about, right? Unfortunately, we are not at that level of precision.
It happens with cherries.
It
happens with cherries when they put them with ice.
a crudité or something, yeah.
The cherries.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the reality is we should try to do it. If you eat an olive or you eat a tomato, you take an apple, you wash it. Yeah. If you want to do things the right way, you should do it. Okay. So this is urhatz. Now, we also, let's not forget that one of the reasons is to trigger kids also to ask, how come we do netilat yadayim, we do make a beracha? Right? So right away, we want to engage that interaction with the children, and we want to be able to start stimulating their interest. Good? Are we good?
Yep.
Karpas. So karpas, we're going to make a beracha. Okay. Borei peri ha'adama. The custom is to eat celery, We eat the celery. And it's very interesting why we eat karpas. The Bach says that we eat karpas because the karpas is a little bit of food that opens the ta'avon, the appetite. It opens your appetite. Now, it's, let's put things in perspective. You didn't eat all day, because the mitzvah is not to eat so that you eat at night the proper way. So you're hungry. You just had wine. The wine also opens the appetite. And then you make a beracha on the karpas. There's a machloket if you should eat kazait or not. Each one will do what their minhag is.
Or less?
Yes, some say you don't eat kazait so that you don't enter the problem of saying bracha charona, right? But others say if you don't eat, this is a shiur you should eat to accomplish the mitzvah of karpas. So to each their own. They're both right. They're both right to each their own. So you're very hungry.
Why wouldn't they institute a fast if you're not supposed to eat?
I'm sorry?
Why wouldn't they institute a fast on the day of Pessach if you're not supposed to eat before the meal? Didn't you say you're not supposed to eat the day of Pessach so that you're hungry for the
Correct.
Why
Well, it's different. That's no. You have the ta'anit. The ta'anit bechor is mashu acher. That's something else. There is the ta'anit for that specific reason. Okay. Nachon?
Yep.
For the bechorot, and then you have the achila, the mitzvah of eating matzah with appetite.
Right.
By the way, very few people fast. Pesach. Let's be honest. Everybody finds a siyum somewhere. Okay. But we want to eat at night with a big appetite. Now, not only that we already hungry and we have appetite, the Bach says, you know why we eat the karpas? Because it opens the appetite even more. What does that mean? So here, Chachamim Chachamim want to say something very, very interesting, and it's something that needs to be internalized. They tell us, once you have proclaimed Kadesh, you have addressed that you want to disconnect yourself from your past. How can you hold on to this? How can you actually build a consistency, like Adam was saying? How can you be consistent in an effort or in a decision that you make at a time of high? You had right? You're at a high right now. You want to be holy. It's the beginning of the year. It's the right mindset. Everything conduits. Everything comes together in a perfect environment. Now, how can you hold on to this for the rest of the year? Karpas comes, and it comes to teach us to be in control of your desires. You're hungry, and I'm going to make you more hungry. But you know what? You're going to have to wait because you have all Magid in front of you. You have to, if you want to be able to actually accomplish something, there is a mastering of your desires. The most basic ones that you have to learn to control. That's how you build consistency. Not just through an ideology, not just through a proactive action and that's it, but it has to be consistent. And what type of consistency you need to have to learn to master a basic desire, like eating. Normally, you're hungry, you jump on the food like an animal. No, mapiton. I am hungry. I tease the palate, yet I will be in control, stay in control, and show that by being in control, I am free from the influence of the desires that I have. And I will put my mind to the Magid. I will put my mind to the Torah. The underlying lesson we learn from this, that's extremely important also, is that if you are satisfied with your food and you are completely full, it's very difficult to be objective when you learn Torah. You cannot learn Torah and be full with yourself.
Why?
Oh, why? Very good. When you are full, that means your body is in full explosion, right? It's complete. It's complete. It's extremely difficult to give room to your intellect at that time. You have to be satisfied and you have to eat and be strong. Yes. But if you are full, the brain is under the influence of the body. This is why you want to learn Torah. You're going to eat the bread with salt and you'll sleep on the floor. What does that mean? It means that there is a level of comfort that you need to have. But if you have too much of it, it starts interfering with your clarity. Here, we want to show that we are fully open to connect with what we're about to learn, what we're about to proclaim, and what we're about to say. It's a balance. That, by the way, the Rambam says that you should never eat to a level of satisfaction. Never. You have to always stay a little bit hungry. Why? But that for the body it's great, but it's also extremely important because it keeps your mind sharp. And I think I mean, for me for sure, but I don't know. When you eat, you feel tired. You're not focused anymore, right? And find yourself when you're not eating. You're very sharp. You're very, very sharp. By the way, you know. I would say more than that. Something I learned. I heard for the first time about it actually in Qatar, where they do this 20 hours or 18 hours fast, I
do it every day.
Yeah, you do it. Oh. And they told me they've become the sharpest through that. Now, I don't know, okay, that's there, but I'm bringing an idea that maybe today is something that's being revealed. The Chachamim tells we say
intermittent fasting.
Yeah, exactly. This just shows you. There's one point that I'm trying to, for Andy, that I'm bringing up. That it's through staying not so satisfied with the food that your mind can have an independent clarity, and this is what we're learning. If we needed to be full to read the Haggadah, do you think Chachamim would keep us hungry? It's because we're hungry that we can say Magid. I said it's something that needs to be internalized. I told you, Andy. I told you. Okay.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
The opposite of how the world it's working today.
Why?
Because today is like eating and enjoying.
No, that's for sure. That's absolute. That's exactly the point. Number one, there is a control of the instinct of eating, of the desire of the food, and on top of that, it frees your brain to be able to connect more, to understand more. I will tell you, a lot of Chachamim, they did Ta'aniyot. Now you could ask yourself a question: isn't that you're weak, you're tired, you cannot learn Torah? It's exactly the opposite. It opens your mind to a level of clarity and independence from the body that is phenomenal. Phenomenal. And this is what we're experiencing. The detachment of the basic desires in order to have clarity and absorb Torah and Emunah. That's Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. That's the Hidush of Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. There is something else. There is something else. The Zohar Kadosh tells us the story of Elisha Navi and the lady that was very, very poor. I think we all know the story. Eliyahu Navi came to her and she begged him. She had a lot of debt she had to pay back. She didn't know how to pay back the debt. She didn't have anything. She was left with nothing. And Eliyahu asks her, Elisha Navi asks her, do you have some oil? Do you have something at home? And she says, yes, I have a barrel with a little bit of oil in it. And he tells her, okay, bring me this barrel. And suddenly the barrel, Elisha Navi prays and the barrel gets filled. And then he tells her, bring me all the tools, all the vessels that you have at home, all the kelim, the pots, the pans, bring me everything. And this barrel was getting filled and filled and filled and and filling up all the rest of of whatever vessels she had until she filled up all the vessels at home. And he told her, okay, now you have plenty. The Zohar Kadosh says, why did Elisha Navi needed this little bit of oil? He needed something to trigger the beracha and the abundance. So the Zohar says, if you don't have a starting point, if you don't have something to hold on to, the beracha cannot come down. You need something to hold on to. HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to hold on to something to send you the beracha. That's the ishtadlut, the effort, something. And that's where the beracha comes. That's what the Zohar Kadosh says. Karpas is that little thing. Karpas is we're holding on to something that's completely insignificant, especially today. Today, where we have shefa, we have so much abundance of food. Today, if the 2-star Michelin is not perfect, we're gonna complain. No, we want 3-star Michelin. It's crazy abundance of beracha. So who would give attention to a piece of karpas that's completely means nothing, has no value? We start our journey, we start our efforts by recognizing that the beracha starts with the most little things. What's insignificant has a beracha in it. And it's what's insignificant that brings me more beracha. By appreciating, by addressing it, by respecting the karpas, by respecting that little bit of food, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showers upon you tremendous beracha. L'hakarat hatov. Not to take anything for granted. You're hungry, but you know what? Believe me, if you're not too fussy, when you eat that karpas, it hits the spot. It hits the spot. And the same way the desire in that case is to eat, it opens up more desire. When you appreciate what you have the willpower to go and do more and want more and accomplish more. This is what the karpas is coming to teach us. The same way effect it has on our body to open up the desire of eating. It's a siman, it's a sign that basically tells us if you appreciate a little bit, it will trigger a desire to appreciate and want more. This is the sort of beracha. This is what we connect when we eat the karpas. Not only to master our instincts, to be in control of our desires, in order to have clarity of Torah, in order to have our da'at open, and have objectivity, but also we look at the simplicity of things. We appreciate the most mundane, the most insignificant food. And through that appreciation, we create a vessel, a channel with HaKadosh Baruch Hu of beracha. This is what we do when we eat the karpas. But not only that, like we said, we also amplify the desire of accomplishment. Right? So that feeling of hunger that I had, that suddenly was stimulated by the karpas, what we reflect to when we feel it is the abundance, the desire, the willpower that we're growing to get to the end result of the Kadesh. That's what we carry all year long. And we're mevatel Torah. We go to sleep, we rest, we don't eat just so that we can go through that experience during the Seder. To learn Torah, to want da'at, you need the willpower. You need the desire. You need to want it. It's not just a stationary feeling. Oh, you know what? I want more Torah. No. If today you want Torah like you wanted Torah yesterday, you don't want Torah. You don't want it. If you want Torah today, it has to be more than you wanted it yesterday. You want wisdom today more than yesterday. This is what the karpas comes to. But the only way to do it is through appreciation, recognition of how little things are so important. Such a big message today. We see the ways. Somebody told me. Yesterday or before yesterday. No, Mechila, a few days ago. He told me, Rabbi, you come to my house, I throw more than what I consume. I throw more, and he was saying this, throw food. He throws more food than what he consumes. He says, fact. And he was telling me this from a place of shefa, of bracha. And you know what? It's very troubling. We are challenged with shefa today. The abundance that we have is a challenge. It's not a beracha, it's a challenge. Because today karpas means nothing. It means nothing. We go back to the basics. You want kedusha, you want tahara. Starts by the basic. Recognize the basic. You want to overcome your desires. It has to start with what's basic and start appreciating. This is how you can open yourself to the Seder. All these are the preliminary actions we do to get to the Magid, right? If you cannot appreciate the basic, if you cannot appreciate who's around you, if you cannot appreciate the fact that you can say, Ya Habibi, you cannot say Magid. You cannot enter the Seder properly. Hakarat Tov for the most simplest thing. Okay, sorry. All right. There. I'm sorry. I went a little over time. That's karpas. Okay. So,
Rob, maybe we need to, in order to finish the next shiurim, do Pesach.
So we already addressed it right before you came. So
okay.
So for this shiur, Baruch Hashem, we just finished with karpas. Okay. All right. Just so you know. So according to the Rambam, okay, we should eat kazait, right? But according to the Shulchan Aruch, and that's what most people do, we eat less than kazait. We don't eat the full kazait, okay? So that Be'ezrat Hashem, Baruch Hashem, we just finished with the karpas. Next year we'll start Yahatz. Be'ezrat Hashem.